What if one of the greatest physicists in history openly admitted that he didn't follow the idea of God, not because he rejected meaning, but because he found something even more fascinating? That's not what most people expect to hear about Richard Feynman. You might think a man who spent his life uncovering the secrets of the universe would eventually point to some grand designer behind it all. But Feynman went in a different direction, and the reason why is far more interesting than a simple yes or no. Imagine you're looking at a simple flower. Most people might say it's beautiful, maybe even divine. But Feynman would pause and say, sure, it's beautiful, but do you know what makes it beautiful? He'd start talking about the cells, the pigments, the way light interacts with its surface, the evolutionary journey that led to its shape. And instead of reducing the beauty, he believed this deeper understanding actually made it more meaningful. For him, the mystery wasn't solved by saying, God did it. The mystery got bigger, deeper, and more exciting the more you looked into it. Now here's where it gets really interesting. Feynman didn't claim to have all the answers. In fact, he was famous for saying he was comfortable not knowing. Think about that for a second. Most people feel uneasy with uncertainty. We want clear answers, something solid to hold onto. But Feynman saw uncertainty as a kind of freedom. He once described it like standing at the edge of a vast ocean of unknowns, and instead of being afraid, he was thrilled. So why didn't he follow the idea of God? It wasn't because he thought everything was meaningless. It was almost the opposite. He believed the universe didn't need a final, fixed explanation to be meaningful. In his view, saying, this is the answer, too quickly actually shuts down curiosity. It closes the door on further questions. And for a scientist like Feynman, questions were everything. Let's try a simple thought experiment. Imagine you're watching a magic trick. The magician pulls a rabbit out of a hat. If someone immediately says, it's magic, and walks away, the mystery ends right there. But if you stay curious, if you ask how it works, what's hidden, what's really going on, you start to uncover layers you never noticed before. Feynman approached the universe in the same way. He didn't want the easy answer. He wanted the deeper one. Now, this doesn't mean he dismissed religion out of arrogance or disrespect. In fact, Feynman often spoke about how human beings create stories and ideas to make sense of the world. He understood why people believe in God. But he personally chose a different path, one based on evidence, exploration, and a willingness to say, I don't know yet. And here's the twist that makes his perspective so powerful. Feynman believed that not knowing doesn't make life empty, it makes it richer. When you don't have all the answers, every discovery becomes meaningful. Every question becomes an adventure. It's like reading a mystery novel where the ending hasn't been written yet. You're part of the story. Think about space for a moment. When we look up at the night sky, it's easy to feel small. Some people find comfort in the idea that there's a grand plan behind it all. But Feynman looked at that same sky and felt something different. He felt awe, not because it was explained, but because it wasn't. Billions of galaxies, endless possibilities, and no final answer in sight. To him, that wasn't scary. That was incredible. There's also something very human about his approach. He didn't pretend to be certain just to feel safe. He accepted doubt as part of the experience. And in a way, that's a kind of honesty we don't see very often. Instead of building beliefs on what we wish were true, he built his understanding on what could be tested, observed, and questioned. But wait, here's where it gets even more thought-provoking. If you remove the idea of a predetermined plan, what does that say about your life? At first, it might feel unsettling. If there's no script, no fixed path, then what's the point? But Feynman would flip that question around. If there's no script, then you get to write your own. Your choices, your curiosity, your actions, they become the source of meaning. It's like being dropped into a vast, unexplored world. There's no map handed to you. No instructions. Just endless possibilities. Some people might wish for a guidebook, something that tells them exactly where to go. But others, like Feynman, see that as the ultimate adventure. The uncertainty isn't a problem to solve. It's the whole point. And this idea connects deeply to science itself. Science isn't about proving we already know everything. It's about constantly updating what we think we know. Every answer leads to more questions. Every discovery opens new doors. If you believe you've reached the final truth, you stop exploring. And for Feynman, stopping exploration was the one thing he never wanted to do. Let's bring this back to everyday life. Think about how often we look for certainty. We want to know what will happen tomorrow, what choices are right, what path we should take. But life doesn't really work that way. It's unpredictable, messy, and full of surprises. Feynman's perspective suggests that instead of fighting that uncertainty, we can embrace it. Imagine approaching your life the way a scientist approaches an experiment. You try things, you observe what happens, you learn, and you adjust. There's no final answer you're trying to reach, just a continuous process of discovery. Suddenly, mistakes aren't failures. They are data. Questions aren't problems. They are opportunities. And here's a subtle but powerful point. Feynman didn't replace God with science as some kind of new belief system. He didn't say science has all the answers either. He kept that same openness. That same willingness to admit that there are things we may never fully understand. But instead of filling that gap with certainty, he left it open, and found wonder in that openness. So when people say Feynman didn't follow the idea of God, it's easy to misunderstand what that means. It's not about rejecting meaning or purpose. It's about refusing to settle for answers that stop the journey of discovery. It's about choosing curiosity over certainty. And maybe that's the real takeaway here. You don't have to choose between wonder and understanding. You can have both. In fact, they might depend on each other. The more you understand, the more you realize how much there is left to explore. And the more you embrace that, the more alive the world starts to feel. So next time you look at something simple, a flower, the night sky, even your own thoughts, try seeing it the way Feynman did. Not as something that needs a final explanation, but as something that invites endless questions. Because maybe the goal isn't to have all the answers. Maybe the goal is to never stop asking. If this made you think a little differently, go ahead and like the video, subscribe for more ideas like this, and let me know in the comments, would you rather have all the answers or keep the mystery alive? Because in the end, the universe might not be a puzzle to solve, it might be a story that's still being written.